We're we're here this morning actually to share our experiences with the clients that we serve. Those clients are at-risk youth and homeless. And so some of the things that we'll be talking about this morning can make folks uncomfortable. So if that happens during our presentation, please know that we'll be available at the conclusion to meet with you and support you in any way that we need to. So we're going to share our story that relates to those experiences, and we're going to tell you about the way that we are able to quantify, document our desired outcomes that we get when we work with these clients. And we feel like being able to do that has far-reaching implications for our industry, because we're able to validate the work that we do numerically. And it also allows our organizations and our practitioners to go out and compete in a really constructive, competitive way for funding to support the activities that we do. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start by posing a question.
So we want you to think about, for you, what would it take to change a feeling of hopelessness to hope for you? And we're going to ask you for a moment to imagine what it would be like to be homeless, to be a youth anywhere from the age of 14 to 23 and to be homeless. What would that feel like? And if you can, get out of your head and not thinking it, but feeling it, not know where your next meal is coming from, to not have a place to sleep and be warm. What would it feel like? What would give you hope? What would give you a reason to go on, to feel like there could be something better tomorrow? For me, for us, for our clients, this was the answer. And I'm just going to put out there right now, this is very near and dear to my heart and emotional. And so if my voice gets shaky or I tear up, it's because I so deeply feel for our clients and what we're doing. The horse, Equine, has been with humans, partnering with humans for thousands of years. They understand us probably better than any other being. They can look deeply into us. I love this picture, and I don't know if you can see that eye looking. There's a human reflected in that eye. They truly see us, and my clients, our clients, that's one of the things they feel, that they are unseen, unheard, that they're non-existent. So to be with a being that truly looks at them. The horse's heart can find places that we have lost contact with, lost the ability to connect with. And they have the capacity to help us heal, to become whole, to take those fragmented parts and bring us to wholeness again. So as Thomas shared, this is a story of working with our clients, working with the horses, what that experience was like, and being able to document it.
So So we work in conjunction with an organization that's located in the city of Boulder, Colorado. And it's a nonprofit organization that's been around for over 50 years, and it serves the population that's defined by this slide up here. It has 3 programs that are currently operating, one being a temporary shelter, the other one being a drop-in center, and the third being an intensive residential treatment program that exists presently. We are also in the process of building a 40-unit transitional housing facility for the folks that we're serving as well, and that's going to be located in the center of the city of Boulder. So our clients, like Jacqueline mentioned, are ages roughly 12 to 24, and you can see the breakout, the demographic breakout in terms of percentages. I'll call your particular attention to one of the bullet points up there, the one that says 100% of the clients that walk through the doors that we serve have some type of significant history of trauma. You can see that substance abuse is represented here in the slide, and you can also see that there are mental health issues represented here as well. There's a significant representation of major mental illnesses associated with this particular population. And when you factor in that a good percentage of the young people that we serve are dealing with substance abuse and dependency issues, well, that's comorbidity, and that's a compound, complex clinical profile. So it makes these young folks challenging to really sort out how to go about the business of supporting them. The other thing that you should know about these folks is that these young people are treatment savvy in that, you know, they've been doing this for about a minute, and, you know, they understand the treatment process, the therapeutic process. So conventional approaches to therapy doesn't really impact them as much as what we're going to be talking about today in terms of what we do collectively, you know, as professionals in this field. Also note that everyone that comes through the door, the greater majority of those people that walk through the door have slept somewhere that really isn't acceptable if you're a human. So these folks have multiple challenges in terms of just being able to meet their basic needs around this. I suspect that you noted that when we started this presentation, neither Jacqueline nor I really introduced ourselves. Okay? Well, this picture right here represents the reason why we didn't do that. You see, we didn't do that because it's really not about us. It's not about us and who we are. It's about these horses that are in our lives every day, that we work with, that we've bonded with, and we see our clients bonding with. So we're here to talk about the horses, and we're here to talk about the clients, and we're going to talk about the amazing results that we get when you partner a horse with a client and a therapist using the method that we use, that we employ, what those outcomes are like. It's nothing short of fantastic. Now, we understand that you'd like to know a little bit about us, so the next slide has what we lovingly refer to as our pedigree. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. You're going to get to see our pedigree in just a little bit, because we understand that when you have a presenter standing in front of you, you want some sense that there's some validity associated with what it is that they're saying. So we're going to show you our pedigree here in just a moment. This is a picture of Jacqueline and I at one of our treatment facilities, one of our treatment sites. And we've just gathered these horses, and we're heading down to a picadero so that we can begin a session. Can you see that we really enjoy the work that we do? With all those big smiles on our faces? it's a great place to be, and it's just wonderful to be able to partner with these sentient beings. So there you go. There you have it. There's our pedigree. You can go ahead and look through this, and Jacqueline wants to share a little bit about her prior experiences before, getting involved in the equine facilitated psychotherapy work that we do.
So at the very bottom on my side there, I have had a long, extensive career in the medical field, and I have studied the mind-body connection, and I've done and licensed and registered to do MRI and ultrasound and nuclear medicine. So I have been involved in the and mind you, this is my experience. I've been involved in the research, involved in diagnostics, and working with physicians. And what I was feeling called to do was to get on the healing side of things and to understand that I wanted to do more. And so I started volunteering at a therapeutic riding center and working with the horses and clients, and knew that that was what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go further than volunteering. So I looked for a program where I could gain skills to work with clients directly and help them in their healing process. So that's how I got involved in this work. So the methodology that I studied is the Equine Gestalt coaching method. This is a method that's been around. It's hard. It's been around. Gestalt therapy has been around for a long time. Gestalt coaching and coupling it with equines and horses is a natural blending because they're similar. Gestalt is very experiential in the moment. Horses are living in the moment. In this method, it involves somatics and body awareness, which the horses are very aware of. I work with the horse at liberty. Very rarely are they on a halter. Sometimes we might be doing some leading work, and they will be haltered, but they are at liberty in a picadero or a round pen. So the horses always have a choice, and I love that about this method. They are partnering with me, and we collectively are there for the healing of the client. So when I say partnering, when I have a session scheduled, I literally ask the horses. I say, I have a session scheduled. Who would like to work with this client? And literally, they have come out of a pasture eating knee-high grass to come and work with me. So that picture where you saw Thomas and I leading the horses, those were 2 horses for that day that showed up to work. So they completely have a voice and completely have a choice. This is just a picture. This clearly is not me, but of how a session might look with the partnership between the client, the coach or the therapist, and the horse. It is a coactive model of coaching where all 3 participants are equal, and that the horse and the coach are helping the client come to the awareness of their answers of what is right for them for whatever it is they are experiencing and want to work through. So that's just an example of how it might work or might look. And maybe you can tell who the coach and the client is, but hopefully it's that you can't, because they are all equal. So my business name is Xanthus Center, and if you're into Greek mythology, Xanthus was a Greek horse. Actually, he was Achilles' horse, and they had this beautiful relationship and love and friendship for each other. And Xanthus predicted Achilles' death, and in Greek mythology, the gods made Xanthus voiceless. Up until that point, he could speak, and all horses could speak. I chose this name for my business because I want that kind of relationship with my equines, and I want my clients to have that kind of relationship with the horses also. The horses that we own or are guardians of, and the other horses at the facility that we partner with are all rescue horses. We have 4, and at that facility there are 20. And the clients resonate with the horses, they connect with the horses because they're sharing similar stories, and the horses truly get the clients and can understand at a really deep level what they are experiencing as well.
So it's been our experience that the horses have an innate capability of working with our clients. I said that it's been our experience that our horses, a horse has an innate capability of working with our clients. That, given they have the appropriate temperament, we allow the horses, like Jacqueline said, to self-identify who it is would like to work that day by coming forward. When Jacqueline, puts out the request energetically, she gets the desired response. There's always some horse that's willing to step up and say, hey, I'm willing to work today. And so that's how we partner up, with the horses that we work with. And we really emphasize the word partner. The horse has equal standing, much in line with the philosophy that we have here, at Path, and chooses, to work with that client. And they have that choice throughout the entire session. That picture representing the triad, there is actually a horse handler, myself, that's off to the side, that's constantly monitoring what's going on with the horse, so that in the event something isn't, quite right with the horse, I have the ability to switch that horse out and continue the session. So, and that can happen at any point in time throughout the session. So we're going to get into the meat of why it is I believe you're here. We're going to tell you about how we go about the business of quantifying our outcomes. And we believe that's a powerful thing because we're able to represent the outcomes that we're seeing numerically, scientifically, using principles and practices of research that are acceptable as an industry standard. We were able to do that, and we're going to share with you how it is that, we did that. And the motivation behind that was this. We had been working for about a year with these clients, this population, these young folks that have these challenges that we shared with you. Probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult population of having to deal with, out there in this work, in this industry. And these young people were coming to us. They were experiencing the sessions that we were offering with the horses, and they were leaving and they were going back to the organization, Attention Homes, in Boulder. And they were going back and they were bringing their stories of their experience that they had with the horses back, and they were sharing those with the staff members, and the staff members were sharing those, with administration. And, they were cycling back to us, and we were hearing about, how successful these young people were in experiencing, and this is the key thing, in experiencing behavioral change. We were going to we're going to share with you how we represent the relationship that exists between what is happening with the horse during a session and how that translates into behavioral change. Do you understand how important that is? That behavioral change translates into an improved quality of life for the people that we're serving. And that's what staff was seeing with these young folks, an improved quality of life. So we kind of asked ourselves, what would it look like to be able to quantify those outcomes? What would that look like? Before I go there, there's something I want to share with you folks. I'm going to offer up a formula. It's the formula that I offer up to the doctoral students that I supervise at Denver University in Colorado. When these young folks come out and they just initiate their practices, they're pretty much intimidated thinking about the fact that they're responsible, for their clients. They're responsible, for their well-being and their betterment. And I share with them this formula, and I'll share it with you today because it's a foundation for our work as well, too. Everything that we do, and we encourage the doctoral students to do, is to start the process with genuine empathy. Bring genuine empathy to the table. Everything you do should be referenced from, we're suggesting, everything that you do should be referenced from genuine empathy. Because you see, empathy leads to rapport. And just think about having rapport with your clients. Rapport is a very powerful thing because rapport leads to trust. And when you have trust with a client, that trust leads to influence. Can you see where this is going? And that influence allows us to help facilitate behavioral change for that client. And that's what our work is predicated upon. It's that behavioral change. It's getting to the place where that client can experience an improved quality of life. So we're able to do that. We were doing it, and we were getting the feedback. It was anecdotal information. They were stories. The kids were going back and talking about their experiences, and then the staff was seeing the behavioral changes reflected, on their part in the residential program and in the drop-in center. They were seeing that. So we kind of took a look at, statistics and asked ourselves, what could we do to represent those behavioral changes via numbers, quantify those outcomes. And what we found was our ability to take what is known as a Likert item scaled survey that will afford the clients an opportunity, these young people an opportunity to answer measured questions, scaled questions, in a way that allows us to then take the data and analyze it using descriptive statistics and chi-square. Chi-square analysis represents a relationship between two independent variables. It would take me a while to explain what chi-square is about. If you're interested in the mechanism, then go ahead and explore it. In statistics and in research, a chi-square, again, represents and demonstrates at a certain significant level the relationship between two independent variables. And in our case, we analyzed all 4 questions on the survey, and I'm going to share with you what they look like and why we asked those questions in just a minute. We analyzed all 4 of those questions using descriptive statistics that you're going to see represented up here. And then we went the next step with the first 2 questions on the survey, and we analyzed the data relating to those first 2 questions, and again you'll see why, using the chi-square analysis. And the independent variables that we looked at via the chi-square analysis was the methodology used and the behavioral changes on the part of the clients that were represented by the survey. We conducted the survey in 2015, started in 2015 and ran it through 2015 and 2016. And at the conclusion of 2016, we initiated the analysis of the data. This pretty much summarizes what it was I was, just sharing. This type of study, and you can see it represented here, we are looking at the emotional, psychological, and attitudinal responses. Because we have a measured response, there's an opportunity to collect a scaled response to the questions that we chose to ask. These are the things that we're able to measure. Notice emotional, psychological, and attitudinal responses. When we give the surveys, those surveys are given privately. So the therapist or anyone associated with the partnership, that process is not present, and they can respond to those surveys anonymously. And then when we go, and it is voluntary, and we do factor in, things like do our clients need any kind of support in terms of their ability to interpret via language that we're using. We factor those considerations and concerns in when we use these surveys. Then we go about the business of selecting surveys randomly for analysis.
So we're talking about statistics, which is kind of dry. So we wanted you to remember that these are human results and humans behind the statistics. And what we're doing, this is just two pictures at the rescue. Actually, it's a sanctuary for horses. And there are 20 there. And so the picture on the left is a horse. Her name is Pandora. It's kind of a Greek theme here. Pandora was new to the rescue. She was sanctuary, and she had come to a rescue first, pulled off a feedlot, and so some trauma there for her. And she was in a paddock, and nothing was expected of her. And she would kind of stay to the back of her paddock and just did her own thing, and that was fine by us. We wanted to give her time to heal. And the client is, I think he was 12? 12. Had been significantly traumatized, emotional, physical abuse, had been trafficked, and very shut down. And we were walking down that same aisleway that you saw in a previous picture, and just being, not really talking much, just being present. And that horse, Pandora, came from the back of her paddock, which is pretty large, all the way up to the front and hung her head over, staring deeply at that client. And he trusted and found his courage and walked over and extended. And I love that picture. That trust. And the client on the right, another client who was experienced trauma and again shut down and totally disconnected from her body, her heart, her emotions, her experiences. And we went into a paddock with the horses, and I just told her to stand, just be and breathe. And these two horses came over and connected with her, and she allowed that to happen. So what the horses are showing me here in this picture on the right is that her heart is blocked, and that's where her emotions are held. And then I begin to work and gestalt that with her. Gestalt is a German word that means wholeness. So this methodology is bringing the client to wholeness again, to healing that fragmented part. The client on the left, then we started building off of that with trust. And of course, every time they came, Pandora was the horse who would show up and who they connected with the most. But we were able to expand that in working with other horses. So, yeah, so just to keep in mind, this is who the statistics represent.
So we're talking about statistics, and honestly, I'm going to represent this in what I consider to be plain speak. You know, I'm certainly capable of going into great detail and you know, explaining how research is you know, subsequently conducted and what's represented here in terms of the use of a Likert item scale survey. Out there in the community, the research community, you'll hear people pronounce that word Likert. But you see, I'm so far advanced intellectually that I actually researched how you really say that, how you really pronounce that word, and it's Likert. The gentleman that established it, his last name was Likert. So just know that when you go out in the general community, and if you ever engage in conversation and you're talking about a Likert scale, you know, be sure you pronounce it properly, because you are really going to impress some folks out there, for sure. I know I did, and I can see I really impressed y'all too, so this is a good thing. So Likert item survey questions are put together in a specific format, in a specific way. And it's represented here in the slides. We chose to put together 4 questions. And the 4 questions represent 4 areas that we chose to focus on. Now, y'all can do this, okay, for yourselves as well, so that you can go about the business of quantifying and documenting the outcomes that you have. And we're going to tell you, you know, how we can support you around that, you know, in just a little bit. And we encourage this. We encourage this because we believe that this is the direction in which our work is going. Having the ability, like I guess it was, you know, the gentleman on the board of directors yesterday from, or the day before, from United Kingdom, saying, hey, we need to be able to really demonstrate and prove that we're doing what we're saying we're doing, that we're getting the kind of outcomes that we're saying we're getting. Well, we believe this is the beginning of our ability to do that. You know, it's moving in that direction. Now, I will tell you that there's limitations to this study, and I will cover those limitations, you know, when we get to that place. But what we have here is solid. Descriptive statistics is solid. A chi-square analysis is solid. I mean, you know, that speaks for itself. You either have a significance level or you don't. And in this case, with the 2 questions that we ran that analysis on, we were able to demonstrate that a relationship did in fact exist between the 2 independent variables that we identified. So here's the first question. And the first question reads, I am feeling more hopeful about my future now at the conclusion of today's Equine Gestalt coaching session than I did at its beginning. We chose that question, and I'm sure it's obvious, because the kids that we're working with have a profound sense of hopelessness and helplessness. Suicide is a real consideration, for those folks. And there's a high level of self-harm that exists in the population also as well. And there's that, to get to that place, there has to be a profound sense of hopelessness and helplessness. So we wanted to know what we were doing in partnership with the horse. Were we changing that? Were we bringing about behavioral change? Was what we were doing going to translate into behavioral change and an improved quality of life? Because that's what we're looking for here out of this. That's what we're wanting out of this. So out of all of the surveys that we compiled over the course of 2 years, over the course of 2 years, we took a random sample of 73 and we analyzed those samples. And I'm going to move quickly through it so that we can meet our time constraints. So you can see for the first question, the selections to respond to this question are such. They strongly agree with that statement. They agree with that statement. They're neutral in that they neither agree nor disagree. They disagree with that statement, or they strongly disagree with that statement. So keep in mind who's filling out these surveys. Kids, okay, defined by the population that with the demographics that we said. First question, sample size was 73. The mode, okay, or the most frequent response on that question was strongly agree. The second response to that question was agree. There were no other responses on those 73 samples. That's amazing. So, yeah, to your credit, folks, to your credit. And the credit to Equus. Second question, I am feeling better about myself. Now remember, these folks have low self-esteem, terribly low self-esteem. I'm feeling better about myself now at the conclusion of today's Equine Gestalt coaching session than I did at its beginning. Sample size, 73. The mode, most frequent response, strongly agree. The next most frequent, agree. There were no other responses. So now we're like, wow. So we asked the next question. I received a high-quality service from the Equine Gestalt coach. N73, mode 68, strongly agree, 5 agree. There were no other responses. And then the last question. I would definitely participate in this coaching program again. Now keep in mind, these are folks that are treatment savvy, and when you say therapy, they break and run for the doors because they want no part of this. Okay? Our response on this question, the mode was 65, strongly agree. 8 agreed. There were no other responses.
And the last two questions we put in there for the organization that was supporting the youth and supporting the program, for their administration, their staff, their board, to see that what we were doing and what they were providing for our clients, the clients were valuing. And that was also something that they could use going forward to apply for grants and funding.
So here's those results summarized in a graph. And you can see that the purple color was the response of strongly agree to the 4 questions. The red is the agree response, and there was no other need for us to represent any of the other selections because we didn't have any, at least not in this batch of data. So here's our limitations of our study. This is sort of summation of the limitations that we recognize, knowing that there probably is even more room for improvement in what we're doing here. You can read through it. The big one being inclusion of a control group, we believe. Our sample size is in fact increasing, and we'll tell you about that quickly. You know, it would be nice to have a longitudinal study to see if those changes were actually sustained over a period of time. And there are other independent variables that we can look at as well, you know, in this research project. So in 2018, we expanded the study. We now have 7 clinicians out there that are generating data using this same survey. And we're norming it on various different populations now to see if the data is going to look differently for different populations. Here's just a sample representation of the populations that we're looking at. And you can see now, because of the data that we've added from the 7 other clinicians, and that data continues to come in and we continue to analyze it, is that we're now getting small representations of some of the other responses, like neutral responses or you know, responses where they disagree. And it's, for the most part, insignificant. I mean, we're looking at 2%, 1%. So the likelihood is good that it's not going to raise to a real level of significance. We're anticipating that this trend, if you will, and we're labeling it a trend at this point in time, will continue, that we're going to continue to get the kind of results, you know, that we're seeing here.
This represents right now, we have 180 surveys that are included in this now, and we're going to carry this out through the end of 2018. I have about 50 more surveys from the clinicians that are participating that are not included in here. So we'll have over 200, which is great. We're excited about that. I also have up here this, and part of this slide didn't come out because it's so big, but I do have it in a handout where it summarizes this slide and a little bit about the methodology and the partnership between the human and the horse. So I have these up here for you, for anybody who would want them.
Just some quick comments that we noted from the clients that we were working with. It's our, yes.
I just have a quick question. Just salt method coaching, if I'm interested and want to become like a gestalt coach, how would I go about doing that?
Well, you can ask Jacqueline about it. Yeah, we'll do that for sure. So, you know, our goal is really to stay connected, you know, with what this work is all about. You know, it's not to stand up here and pontificate about our capabilities. It's really all about the clients and their resilience and their ability to get to the places where they want to go, where they need to go. And it's happening, we believe, in large part because of the partnership that we develop with Equus, with the horse. That's what we're seeing. That's our experience. Okay? And we're of the opinion that that's where the magic happens. It's when you partner with Equus. Yeah, well, let's do questions. That is a great question. And we are capable of constructing the statements, the questions in such a way that we can get, your needs met around your population. This was a start for us. The direction that we want to go is quite in line with what you're suggesting, and that is we're we're interested in things like depression, anxiety, all of the challenges, the mental health challenges that exist with this population and with others. So yes, we're looking to construct additional questions as well, and that certainly could be one of them, to glean that kind of data, for us to be able to analyze. And, thanks for asking it, and it's possible, certainly possible to do it. I can't see who went up first.
Well, and just to the question, I think that's a great question. If we were able with our client base, they're so transient, but to be able to do a longitudinal study with them where we could check back in with them over time, I think that's a beautiful question. And thank you for sharing that.
Who was first? I'll just go around the room quick. Go ahead, ma'am, and I'll start working with you over there. Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
Part of the organization that we work with is three-prong. There's a drop-in center where clients can come on a daily basis and just drop in. That's the most transient. The next is called RHY, and that is temporary housing where they can stay for 3 weeks, a 3-week period. And then there is a residential facility where they can stay longer, and that those clients I can see more regularly. The other side, I may only see them once. So my sessions generally run about 2 hours. And I may see that client never again. They may come through a month from now and say they want to have another session. So am I answering your question? Okay. Sure. Each time. Each time. Mm-hmm.
Over here. Let me just try to get the folks in the order in which they came up. Go ahead, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's correct. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. It does, and again, this is a beginning. This is an attempt to move us in the direction that I think we collectively want to go, and we're not standing here suggesting that this can't be improved or that it doesn't need further scrutiny or analysis. What we're enthused about, though, however, is because we're seeing something here. It's definitely a trend, that we're seeing, and we may need to tweak the process in such a way that, answers your concerns, and I respect those. No, 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 no. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. True. Yes. 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 Yeah, we concur. And, we also are happy to say that we have the support of the university, behind us that will scrutinize all of this and would not permit us to actually go out, and publish this, and until there's a comfort level around what it is that we're doing. And I respect what you're saying, and our excitement comes from the fact that it's at least we've initiated this and we feel like we're moving in the right direction to be able to document this. And I think it's a step further than anecdotal information, with the descriptive statistics, that we do have, and we agree and recognize that there's more work to be done around it. Thank you for your concern. Let me get the lady in the back. Yes. Right. Sure. Yeah. You bet. You bet. Yes. I would offer up that, yeah, that 8% for mental health issues is low. And the other quick thing we'll say is that, about its usage, and I think both you folks touched upon it. Attention Homes was competing for a grant. The board that was making a decision around who was to get the grant was actually in session. One of the board members called Jacqueline and said, "Give me something to present to these board members that demonstrates that you're getting, the desired outcomes." Jacqueline shared this. And out of all the other programs that were competing for that grant, Attention Homes got the grant to support the equine, facilitated psychotherapy program. And that was a conversation that happened when the board was in session and making their final decision. There was a question up front here. Did you? Oh, right. Well, really, and I hope you guys understand the gratitude really goes out to all of you, because, what you do and how you do it really does translate into behavioral change for your clients. And that's a powerful thing. And, quite frankly, collectively, Jacqueline and I can't think of anything more honorable, than to really contribute to somebody's, personal betterment like you all do. So seriously, give yourself a round of applause because you guys do great work. So thank you.